21 verse 43. V'chiyazid ish arei argo v'arma me'im mizbechiti kachenu amut. So when a man will scheme against his friend to kill him with arma, with deception, then you shall take him even away from my altar to put him to death. Meaning to say, let's see what Rashi says. Lama Nemar, why was this verse said? Lafisha Nemar, because it states, Makeh ish, one who strikes a man. Shomea ani, I might think, Afilu harag guy. I might think, Viropei shemit, even a doctor who kills. Ushliach bezdin shemit b'malkut arbaim, or let's say an agent of the court who kills. The av hamaket beno, or a father who strikes his son. Basically, I might think people who kill without any intent. The verse says, meaning to say, if he will do it intentionally, or go varma, to kill him guilefully. Meaning to say, all these cases, they intentionally hit him, but there was no intent to attack him. So we're seeing from here that the intent has to be with guile, to hurt him. Not just the intent to hit, but the intent to do damage. So me'im mizbechi, and this is the part I think is so powerful. So hold on, me'im mizbechi. It states, Rashi says, Imaya Kohen, if he was a Kohen and he wants to worship, you shall take him and put him to death. Meaning to say, the person can't say, listen, you can't put me to death. I'm involved. I'm needed for religious activity. Sorry, that nobody's beyond the law. That even the Kohen cannot claim he's needed. I'm the only Kohen in the town. You need me to bring the worship. Sorry, nobody. You can't run to the altar and expect that to be a sanctuary. And so, although if he's already begun the service, then you have to wait for him to finish. You don't take him out in the middle. Yeah, Rabbi Yosef.
How is this related to Adonijah holding on to the corners?
So exactly. So Adonijah tried to get, remember, we'd have to look at that story. He tried to get protection from the altar. Tried to get it, but I believe they didn't let him get away with it. He tried to get protection. I think the Netziv comments on that. If you look on this verse, look up the Netziv on Sefaria. I think, the Netziv talks about it, but he might only talk about it in one of his footnotes. See if the Netziv comments on it. Well, I have the book at home. I don't have it here in the library. I could check it there. Okay. Umakeh aviv v'imo, one who strikes his father and his mother. Hold on one second. Just give me 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so now we're up to the next verse. Umakeh aviv v'imo, if somebody strikes their father or their mother, this person is put to death. What does this mean? Rashi says, why does it have to say this? We learned that if somebody hits his friend, that he's subject to payment, but not to the death penalty. This tells us that if somebody strikes his father, he gets put to death, but you're only liable if the death penalty causes a bruise. This is why, by the way, we have to be very careful. You're not supposed to play basketball and be on the opposite team of your father. You might foul him. Or maybe if you're a dentist, they say you can't work on your parents because you're making a wound in them. It's a shiloh. I'm not passing here. I'm just telling you, it's a shiloh. Okay. So you can't cause blood. Imagine you foul your father hard.
But isn't there any sense that it has to be intentional?
So that's a question. That's a question. But by the way, a lot of people foul intentionally. You could easily get carried away in the middle of the game and act that way. That's why I always beat my kids at ball when I play them. They're afraid to foul me. It's an unfair advantage. So it says the verse, one who kidnaps a man and sells him. First of all, his father, mother, Ozel is either one. Mos yumas shall be put to death through strangulation. Then Rashi says, somebody kidnaps a man and sells him, when he's found, he's put to death. Rashi says, why does it tell us this verse? Because it states, because it says, when a man will be found kidnapping a person, I only know a person who kidnapped a person. Let's say he stole a person, he kidnapped a person who was a woman or a tumtum or androgynous. These are people who are indeterminate gender or an androgyne. It means to say kidnaps and sells him without saying it's a man. Now I know also a woman. It says gonev nefesh. So it's basically anybody is included. And then you capture him with the kidnapped person. Witnesses saw that he had kidnapped the victim and had sold him. Kidnapped him and sold him before the sale. Mos yumas, he should be put to death. You strangle him. So kidnapping is strangulation. Any death in the Torah without specifying it is strangulation. We'll just finish the Rashi. Why does the Torah interrupt hitting the father and cursing the father with this verse of kidnapping? Why? Why does it do that? So Rashi says, why do we do this? So the prohibition. So there's a dispute. There's a dispute in the Talmud about this. And about whether or not it applies to a parent who is not abiding by the laws of the Torah. Yeah, Jerry, you had a question to the curse, the prohibition of cursing your parent if let's say they're not a good. Yeah, Jerry.
Yeah, apparently in the year 1000, Rashi's time, they had sexual people whose sexual organs were not normal, and apparently it was so common that he had to actually refer to it in his commentary.
Well, no, that's not. It's well before Rashi. The Mishnah already discusses that there's a spectrum of biologically that people have. It's not just male or female. It's not just that. The Talmud already talks about this frequently, that there's a spectrum of the word is not identification as gender, but really there is a spectrum of how we view them. Do we view them as a man or a woman or as indeterminate? And this is Rashi is quoting the Talmud here, and that's a very, very big theme, that there's man, woman, and other categories. So yeah, it goes back to the Talmud. It's not something new. It's not just something that was created 10 years ago by woke people. It goes back to the Talmud.
Thank you.
So then the verse states, Umekalel aviv v'imo mos yumas. Somebody who curses his father and mother, Rachmana litzlan, somebody who curses his father and mother is put to death. What does this mean? Rashi says, why does it say this? Because it states, Isha shel yikalel es aviv, a man who will curse his father shall be put to death. Isha kilel es aviv. I only know about a man who cursed his father. Isha shekilel es aviv minayin. How do I know also a woman? Says the verse, Mikalel aviv imo stam. One who curses his father or mother without saying who. Bein ishu ben isha. Whether it's a man or a woman. Why does it say a man? To exclude a minor. Mos yumas is put to death. How? Biskila, through stoning. Wherever it says, wherever it says his blood is upon him, it is biskila, it's through stoning. And Rashi says the paradigm for all of them is with a stone they shall pelt them, they forfeit their lives. Okay. Then the next verse states, when men will quarrel. So what does the verse mean? She says, next verse states, okay, this has to do with damages. When men are fighting, and a man strikes his friend with a stone or with a fist, and he doesn't die and he falls down and he's lying down. She says, why does it have to say this? The Torah deals with this elsewhere. Because elsewhere it says an eye for an eye. I would only know the value of his limbs. I wouldn't know about lost wages. Therefore it says Parsha. So this passage is teaching us about lost wages. He'll fall to idleness. And illness, he's on disability. He can't work anymore. Okay. If he gets up and he walks outside, on his stick, and then he will be absolved. Just give him lost wages, and the medical expenses. So this is what you have to pay for the person. If he through his own healing and strength he walks. So then he's innocent. But Rashi says, why would you think he's not innocent? Why would you think you would kill him if the person he hit didn't die? So the verse is teaching us that what happens if he strikes somebody, we incarcerate him until we see this person was able to walk and he's healed. That's what it means. When this person gets up and he walks under his own stamina, then the one who struck him will be absolved. But until he walks on his own, he's not absolved. So this is a holding cell. Somebody strikes somebody, we're not sure if he's going to survive, we put him in a holding cell until such time as the victim is able to walk on his own, and then we release the person from his holding cell. Rak shifto is lost wages. We give him the lost wages from his illness. If he cut off his hand or his foot. We see how much lost wages he has. As though he's watching cucumbers. Because even after this illness, he can no longer do any job. So he's already paid him for his lost damages, but now he can't even he's already paid him for the cutting off of the hand and the leg, but now he also can't even watch the cucumbers. So now we give him the money for watching cucumbers. It says, yad tachas yad, regel tachas regel. And you have to give him the healing fees. Kitar Gamo, Yishalem Starofe, you got to pay him the doctor's wages. Doesn't mean that what does it mean, Virapoy Rape? So the commentaries on Rashi says it doesn't mean that he himself must do the healing, it means he pays the doctor. The footnote here says something interesting. Let's say the person who does the injuring is a doctor. He says, I don't need to pay this other guy, I'll heal you myself. Right, Mayor is correct. The victim has the right to refuse his services and demand that he pay a different doctor's fee. He's like, no, I only want to go.
Because this was deliberate, right? So it doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't have to be deliberate. If you, when it comes to damages, Adam Mu'an La'olam, that even if you accidentally strike the person, you have to pay his wages. You have to pay the damages even if it's accidentally. Right, from the verse, it makes it sound like it was deliberate, but the Gemara tells us it's not even if it's deliberate, it was accidental.
Even a grof is, you can control rocks that aren't in your hand.
But the Gemara's understanding is that it's even if it's not deliberate.
Wow.
Furthermore, if the victim says, pay me the doctor's fee and I will treat myself, the injuring party has the right to insist on treatment by a qualified physician. He can say, if he doesn't recover, then my reputation will be damaged. So let's say you're entitled to the insurance money. He says the insurance company has the right to insist that you show the doctor's bills, that we don't just give you the cash payment. You have to do the repair. Very interesting.
Yeah, even as a
Let's see.
differentiates between the actual physical damage that occurs. He says because God is the ultimate healer.
Yeah.
He says no, God is not the one that's going to heal him. Anything that happened to him bodily, physically, he has to go and get a physician. But then there's the spiritual damage.
Oh.
The guy now doesn't have a hand and a leg, and then he has great psychological issues. He's not a full person anymore. So he says in this instance, God, the healer, that's out of jurisdiction of the court.
Beautiful.
The psychiatrist, so to speak. But they didn't happen back then.
Okay, nice. Shkoyach, Maya. Shkoyach. So you must have had psychiatrists back then. It would be the Kohen. They go to the Kohen and give counseling. So the verse states, next verse.
Well, was a physician.
Yeah, back then,
he was everything.
Back then in the Middle Ages, to be a physician would mean to read a book.
No,
they didn't have medical school.
He was a very.
Yeah, he knew it.
He was a real deal. But he was an astronomer, a physician.
He knew everything.
So he always comes up with very scientific
explanation.
Insights.
So the verse says if a man strikes his slave or his female slave, basheva, with a stick, umeis tachas yado, and then he dies underneath his hand, nakomi nakem. Oh wow! So here what we're talking, he will have to be avenged. Here what we're talking about is where a Canaanite slave gets killed, then there's going to be punished for it. What was the law? Before we read this Rashi, what was the law? Maybe Ben, as a historian, you maybe know this. What was the law in American history if you killed a slave?
That's a great question.
If it was your slave, you were exempt. If it was somebody else's slave, you have to pay for a new slave.
If you killed your own slave, you were exempt?
Yeah. They had no value for life at that time.
Okay, so let's see what they say. But here we're saying that if you killed a slave, let's see what Rashi says. If a man strikes a slave, the verse is talking to us about a Canaanite slave. Rashi says, well, maybe it's a Hebrew slave. Says the verse, he's his property. It's just like property is yours forever. It's about a slave you own forever. And that is a Canaanite slave. So, but wasn't that, why is this verse necessary? So therefore, it's to teach us that the verse is telling us by the law of the day or 2 days. That we're talking about a case, even one who kills his own slave, even though the slave is a victim. So basically, if the slave dies within 1 or 2 days, then the owner is liable. Hello there, Cal. If the slave dies within 1 or 2 days of the killing, then he's liable. But if it's longer than that, he's going to be acquitted. So they recognize, even though there is slavery, which is abominable, and I don't understand it, but at least they recognize the humanity of it. But shevet, if you strike him with a staff, we talk about a staff that you hit him with just sufficient strength to kill him. Or maybe there's not enough to kill him. Says the verse, Be Yisrael, and if you struck him with a stone, just like a Jew, just like by a Jew, you're only liable if you struck him something that could kill him. Now, and a part of the body which could cause death. For sure, for a slave, you're only liable if you strike him with something that could kill him. You're put to death by a sword. So if you kill your own slave, you're put to death. So American law, Rabbi Yosef, the Canadian, tells us that you wouldn't be punished. Is that true? Do you Google that?
Very Douglas talks about it in his memoir.
And what does he say?
Yeah, it doesn't appear that there were criminal, in many places at least, there were not criminal.
There's a state law.
Who would prosecute a slave owner for killing? Where? What court? What court?
Yeah.
In an abolitionist state, maybe Massachusetts.
But it would be a state law.
Yeah, but you have to arrest them first.
Federal civil rights violation of your federal civil rights. That was not a thing back then. That was a later amendment.
Not only that, I mean, it went beyond that, I mean, they had ways of hunting down.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So
they could kill them if they were trying to free themselves.
Then it says, yeah, sure, no, of course.
The whole institution of slavery in the United States,
Yeah,
or in English North America, evolved, changed it. It got more or less liberal and more strict attention. But before the United States, there were indentured servants who were much like slaves. They had rights that sound a little bit more like what you're saying from the Talmud. There are things that they could become free, or that the master could be liable in some cases. This is the 17th century.
17th century. All right, so this is the thing. Achim yomai, very, thank you. Achim yomo yomayim yamod. But if he survives for a day or two, well, yakum, then the master is acquitted, kikaspohu, because it's his money. So if you strike him, but he dies after 3 days, then the master would be released. Rashi says, Im al yom echadu patur, if he's acquitted after 1 day, ayomayim ukoshkem, for sure after 2 days. So what we're talking about is el yom shel yomayim. It means a day, which is like 2 days. Ezer zemi eis la'eis. What is that? That's a 24-hour period. Lo yakum ki kaspohu. Then under those circumstances, he will not be avenged because he is his money. Ha'achar sheiko. But if someone else other than the master strikes him, if somebody else strikes your slave and he dies, he's put to death. I guess in American law, they would say you would sue them, but here he's put to death. Then yakum ki kaspohu. Oh no, we just read that. Okay, next verse 22. This has to do with abortion. It has to do with abortion. Yeah. I asked David Ben Moshe. I said, why you call yourself Ben Moshe? He said, because when his mother was pregnant, he went to the doctor, and the doctor said, don't give birth to this baby because he's going to be born without a brain. They had like an ultrasound or something. The baby has no brain. But his mother was very much against abortion, so she didn't believe. So she said, I don't care. And then he was born, he was fine. So they went back to the doctor. The doctor said, oh yeah, we were reading the test wrong. But anyway, he called himself Ben Moshe, because just like Moshe was a baby, he was set to die, but was lived. Also this person, he was set to die and he lived.
Both had close calls.
Close call, right. Two men are fighting, and he struck a woman who was pregnant, and then her baby came out, and there was no fatality with her. Then he will be punished. Then it will penalize when the husband of the woman will oppose upon him and he'll give it through the judge's orders. So what's going on here? Let's see what Rashi says here. Two men are fighting. So Reuben and Shimon are fighting, and Reuben intended to strike Shimon. And then there's a woman standing nearby. And Reuben accidentally hits this woman. He accidentally, let's say, hits Rachel. Vinagfo. And so then they are pushing. They're pushing each other. As it states, so but the woman doesn't die, it's just her fetus that dies. Then the man is punished. He has to pay the money. It's not murder. What he's done is not murder. It's a tort. He's done damages. How do we determine the damages? We see what we try to assess our value on the marketplace, if she'd be pregnant versus not pregnant, and they have actuarial tables. But we see from here that she'd be punished, that the punishment for killing a fetus was not death. You collect money from him. I guess in certain states today, I wonder if it's if you kill a fetus that's 9 months, that maybe, I don't know, it depends on the state. I don't know. So then it states, yes, Jerry.
Is from this pasuk the idea that in Judaism a fetus is not a human being until it lives for 30 days. Do we get that from this verse?
This is one of the sources that it's not murder to kill a fetus. It's one of the sources, because here we go, that is saying if you would have killed a woman, you'd be liable for murder. But just since you killed the fetus, you're just liable for monetary punishment. So it's clear from here that killing a fetus is not murder. This source. There are other sources say other stuff.
Time doesn't start in 30 days, starts the minute the fetus comes up for air.
Well, maybe it starts even before. No, but there are some babies that are not viable, then you wouldn't be liable for that for sure. I know you'll be punished. How so? You you collect money. As it states, punish him with 100 silver coins. When the husband lays a claim against him in the court to impose a penalty upon him over this. Okay.
That's what Barbara will ask the question that's vexing the 21st century. He says, if a woman with a child is pushed, resulting in a miscarriage, why is the one responsible punished life for life? If something happens to the woman, but not for what happens to the child, all human life is of equal value.
Yeah,
exactly right. A very modern man.
So basically you have to do, there you give basically the value in the court, However, the next verse states, the masongi, but if there will be a fatality, if the woman will die, Rashi says, Then you give a soul for a soul. Rabbis dispute about this. Some say that if the woman dies, the one who struck her is put to death. And some say that means monetary. So the case is, let's say you intend to kill one person. Reuven intends to kill Shimon, but instead he kills Rachel. Is exempt from death. And he pays the heirs his money. So that's the case. He pays the heirs the money. So there's a dispute. If you intend to kill one, you kill the other. Do you get death or a monetary payment? Yes, Ben.
Well, what did it say? I mean, again, I'm looking at the translation, then thou shalt give soul for soul.
Right. So
So
then,
how can there be, I understand there's a debate, but soul for soul doesn't seem very ambiguous. It doesn't seem like soul would be a monetary.
soul can mean his value. It can mean his value because clearly an eye for an eye is not literal because you can't take the actual eye. So you can never do a literal soul. So it just means the value of the soul. That's because the next verse is a famous verse. Ayin tachas ayin, shein tachas shein, yad tachas yad, regel tachas regel. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a hand for a hand, a leg for a leg. And this is not literal. Okay,
Okay.
well, that's what Rashi say. We'll do those Rashis tomorrow. We'll stop here. All righty. We'll stop the recording here and we'll pray the mincha prayer.